Blood dripped from Judge Linnea Drummond's hands as she stood motionless in her kitchen. The knife lay at her feet, its blade catching the lightning that flashed through the window. This wasn't a courtroom and she wasn't delivering justice. She had just become the very criminal she'd sentenced countless times before. For 20 years, Judge Drummond commanded respect in Pine Hollow, Texas. Her decisions were fair, her ethics unquestionable. Residents nodded respectfully when she walked down Main Street. The courthouse steps where she worked were as familiar to locals as their own front porches. But that night, something broke inside the woman who interpreted the law. What transforms a respected judicial figure into someone capable of destroying her own family? How does a mother's hand that once stroked her children's hair become the instrument of their demise? The answers lie in a small East Texas town where pine trees whisper secrets and Victorian homes hide dark truths behind their elegant facades. This isn't just another crime story. This is about how quickly perfection can shatter when secrets grow too heavy to carry. If you've ever wondered how a seemingly flawless life can collapse in a heartbeat, stay with me and hit that subscribe button. The story of Judge Linnea Drummond will make you question how well you know the people closest to you, perhaps even yourself. Pine Hollow nestled between rolling hills and ancient forests like a postcard come to life. Main Street boasted family-owned shops with hand-painted signs, where shopkeepers greeted customers by name. The town square hosted farmers' markets on Saturdays and concerts on summer evenings. Children rode bicycles without fear, and neighbors still borrowed cups of sugar from one another. At the heart of this Norman Rockwell painting stood the courthouse where Judge Linnea Drummond presided. Her appointment as the first female district judge in county history made front-page news. The town celebrated with a parade. Local girls suddenly had a new role model, a woman who broke glass ceilings without losing her gentle demeanor. The Drummond home on Magnolia Lane was a masterpiece of Victorian architecture. Corbin, Linnea's husband of 20 years, had personally restored every inch of the three-story beauty. His architectural firm specialized in breathing life into historical buildings, and their home showcased his finest work. Their daughters completed the picture of domestic bliss. 17-year-old Mireille inherited her mother's confidence and her father's creativity. Her performances in school plays drew standing ovations. 13-year-old Tamsin, quieter but equally brilliant, devoured books and wrote stories that her teachers passed around the staff room. Have you ever known someone who seemed to have it all together on the outside? The perfect career, the loving family, the beautiful home, yet something in their eyes hinted at shadows beneath? The Drummonds smiled in family portraits. They hosted dinner parties where guests left envious. But behind closed doors, silence stretched between them like thin ice. Linnea worked later each night. Corbin slept in his study. The girls exchanged glances when their parents spoke in clipped tones. But what no one in Pine Hollow could see was the tempest gathering behind Judge Drummond's chambers. Jacek Navarro entered the Drummond household on a Tuesday afternoon, his arm draped casually around Mireille's shoulders. At 18, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had faced life's hardships and survived. His dark eyes held a magnetic quality that drew people in, and his smile, rare but dazzling, transformed his face. "He's just misunderstood," Mireille explained to her parents after their first meeting. What she didn't say was that Jacek's father was serving time for assault, or that his mother cycled through boyfriends who treated her son like an inconvenience. Linnea noticed how Jacek watched her during family dinners. Not with the awkward deference most of Mireille's friends showed, but with curiosity. One evening she found him in her home office, examining her law books. "I never met anyone who made something of themselves," he admitted. "Not where I come from." Those conversations became a ritual. Jacek would arrive early to pick up Mireille, spending those extra minutes with Linnea. She told herself she was mentoring him, showing him a path out of his circumstances. The line blurred on a night when Corbin was away on business. Jacek appeared at their door, his face bruised from a confrontation with his mother's boyfriend. Linnea tended his wounds. Their hands touched. Neither pulled away. The morning after their first kiss, Linnea sat in her shower fully clothed, hot water washing over her as she sobbed. She wrote Jacek a letter ending things which she never delivered. She changed her schedule to avoid being home when he visited. But Jacek found ways to be alone with her, his eyes holding hers across rooms, his fingers brushing against her when no one was looking. "This has to stop," she whispered during a stolen moment in her car. "You don't mean that," he replied, his hand closing around her wrist with surprising strength. "We're good together. Special." When she insisted, his tone changed. What would Mireille think if she knew? What would the town think of their honorable judge? If you're finding this story as disturbing as I did, Make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if you found yourself trapped in a web of your own making? When every escape route leads to destruction. Linnea locked the bathroom door, though she was alone in the house. The pregnancy test box lay crumpled in her purse, purchased 2 towns over where no one would recognize her. She'd been ignoring the signs for weeks. The missed period, the morning nausea she blamed on stress, the tenderness that made her wince when Corbin touched her. 3 minutes. The instructions said to wait 3 minutes. She placed the test on the counter and paced the marble floor, her reflection fractured in the mirrors that surrounded her. At 52 she had believed this chapter of her life long closed. Mireille and Tamsin were nearly grown. Her body had begun its transition toward menopause, or so she'd thought. The timer on her phone chimed softly. Linnea forced herself to look. Her hands trembled as she stared at the test, the 2 pink lines that would destroy everything she'd built. The bathroom tilted around her. She gripped the counter to steady herself, knuckles white against the marble. This couldn't be Corbin's child. They hadn't been intimate in months. Linnea slid down against the bathtub, the cold tile against her legs. Her mind calculated frantically, how far along? 6 weeks? 7? Images flashed before her, her robe hanging in the courthouse empty. Her nameplate removed from her door. Corbin's face contorted with betrayal. Mireille's eyes filled with hatred. Tamsin's confusion. She thought of the women who had stood before her bench, their lives in shambles from one bad decision. She had judged them, sentenced them, sometimes with compassion, sometimes with stern disapproval. Now she sat on her bathroom floor no better than any of them. Linnea wrapped the test in toilet paper, buried it deep in the trash, then thought better and retrieved it, breaking it into pieces before flushing it away. She splashed cold water on her face and stared at herself in the mirror. No one can ever know, she whispered to her reflection. But the secret that Linnea thought she could contain was already leaking through the facade of her perfect life. Judge Drummond began forgetting details in court. Dates, precedents, names she'd known for years. She snapped at her clerk over minor errors. Dark circles formed beneath her eyes, visible even through carefully applied concealer. At home, she jumped at unexpected sounds and locked herself in the bathroom for long stretches. "Mom's acting weird," Tamsin mentioned to Mireille one evening. "She yelled at me for leaving a glass in the sink." Corbin noticed too. "Are you feeling all right?" he asked, reaching for her forehead. Linnea flinched away. "I'm fine. Just a difficult case," she replied, the same answer she'd given for weeks. But Mireille observed something her father and sister missed. The way Yasek's eyes followed her mother around rooms. How Linnea avoided being alone with him, yet sometimes Mireille would enter a room and find them standing too close, conversation dying abruptly. Once, she caught her mother's hand trembling as she handed Yasek a glass of water, their fingers brushing. The look that passed between them lasted only seconds, but it contained something Mireille had never seen before, something that didn't belong between her boyfriend and her mother. She began watching more carefully, noticing how Yasek asked about her mother's schedule, how he suggested they study at Mireille's house instead of the library, how her mother made excuses to work late on nights when Yasek wasn't coming over. The confirmation came when she found texts on Yasek's phone while he showered. Nothing explicit but enough, "We need to talk. This can't continue. Please stop calling." That evening, Mireille waited until Corbin took Tamsin to her piano lesson. "What's going on between you and Yasek?" she demanded, blocking her mother's path to the study. Linnea's face drained of color. "Nothing. What are you talking about? Don't lie to me. I saw the messages." Linnea's composure cracked. "Mireille, please, it was a mistake. It's over." "A mistake? You slept with my boyfriend." Mireille's voice rose to a scream. "My boyfriend, Mom. How could you? Can you imagine discovering your own mother betrayed you in the worst possible way? The person meant to protect you violating your trust so completely?" "I'm telling Dad everything," Mireille said, tears streaming down her face. "Everyone will know what you really are." She grabbed her keys and ran for the door, Linnea calling after her. This story takes an even darker turn. Subscribe now so you don't miss what happens next. Thunder cracked over Pine Hollow like a gavel, pronouncing judgment on the town below. Rain lashed against windows and sheets, turning streets into rivers. Wind bent trees until they groaned. Nature's fury matched the storm inside the Drummond home. Linnea sat rigid at the kitchen table, phone clutched in her hand. No messages from Mireille. 3 hours since she'd fled. Outside, lightning illuminated the yard in harsh flashes. Corbin paced by the door, car keys jingling in his hand. "I'm going to look for her," In this weather? Linnea's voice sounded strange even to herself. She's out there somewhere, upset. I'm not waiting. The door slammed behind him, leaving Linnea alone with Tamsin, who huddled on the couch with a book she wasn't reading. Is Mireille okay? Tamsin asked. Linnea couldn't answer. Her mind raced through scenarios. Mireille telling Corbin everything, her career destroyed, her family shattered, the baby growing inside her becoming public knowledge. Her hands moved unconsciously to her stomach. The kitchen knife block sat on the counter. Linnea stared at it, thoughts turning dark. If Mireille had already told Corbin, he wasn't searching for their daughter. He was giving himself time to decide what to do about his wife. Headlights swept across the living room. Car doors slammed. Linnea stood, heart hammering. Corbin entered alone, soaked and grim-faced. No sign of her. Her friends haven't? He stopped, noticing Linnea's expression. What's going on? What aren't you telling me? Nothing. I'm worried about Mireille. Don't lie to me. His voice hardened. She called me Linnea. She was hysterical. Said I needed to ask you about Jacek. The room tilted. She's upset. Confused. What about Jacek? Corbin stepped closer. What has our daughter so devastated she won't come home? Something inside Linnea broke. The careful compartments she'd built in her mind collapsed. I made a mistake, she whispered. Understanding dawned on Corbin's face, followed by disbelief, then disgust. You and that boy? Her boyfriend? How could you? His words cut through her last defenses. Linnea moved without thinking, grabbing the largest knife from the block. Stay away from me. You've lost your mind. Corbin stepped toward her. Give me the knife. I said stay back. She slashed outward. The blade caught his forearm, drawing blood. Corbin looked at the wound in shock. Linnea. She lunged again, this time with purpose. The knife sank into his chest. His eyes widened in surprise more than pain. He reached for her as he fell, fingers brushing her cheek in what felt like a caress. Mom? Tamsin screamed from the doorway. What are you doing? Linnea turned, knife dripping. Tamsin backed away, phone in hand, already dialing. Give me the phone, Tamsin. No, you hurt Dad, I'm calling 911. Linnea moved forward. Tamsin turned to run. The knife rose and fell. Afterward, Linnea sat between their bodies, the storm still raging outside. Blood cooled on the kitchen tiles. She didn't move when dawn broke or when the front door opened. Mireille's scream cut through the morning silence. She stood frozen in the doorway, taking in the scene, her father and sister on the floor, her mother sitting between them, eyes vacant. In a single night, the respected judge had transformed into the very criminal she'd condemned from her bench. Pine Hollow reeled from the news. Residents gathered on street corners, voices hushed as they shared details. The courthouse closed for a week out of respect. Flowers piled on the steps of the Drummond home, though no one lived there to receive them. Never would have thought it, the barber told his customers. Not Judge Drummond. Always the quiet ones, the diner waitress replied. Officers led Linnea from the house in handcuffs, a blanket over her head. She didn't struggle. Didn't speak. Her face remained blank, as if she'd left her body and was watching from somewhere far away. In the interrogation room, she sat motionless, answering questions in monosyllables. The confession, when it came, was clinical and detached, as if she were describing someone else's crime. Jacek Navarro broke down when police questioned him. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he sobbed. She said she loved me. Then she got pregnant and everything changed. The pregnancy was confirmed during Linnea's medical examination. 8 weeks along. The trial was held in a neighboring county. Mireille sat in the front row each day, her face a mask of grief. She watched her mother in the defendant's box, searching for any sign of the woman who had raised her. She looks at me like she doesn't know who I am, Mireille told the prosecutor. When called to testify, Mireille's voice never wavered. She described finding her father and sister. The blood. Her mother's empty eyes. The months leading up to that night. The changes she'd noticed, the confrontation, her discovery of the affair. The last thing I said to my dad was that I'd be right back, she testified. I never got to say goodbye. What punishment could ever be enough for someone who destroys their own family? What sentence matches the crime of stealing a father from his daughter, a sister from her sibling, a future from a child who will never be born? The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning with their verdict. Guilty on all counts. If this story has affected you, please take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts below. Linnea Drummond now lives in a 6 by 9-foot cell at Mountain View Women's Prison. The former judge spends 23 hours a day in this space, with 1 hour for exercise in a concrete yard. Guards report she rarely speaks. She doesn't receive visitors. The dozens of letters Mireille sent during the first year remain unopened in a box beneath her bed. During her 5th month in prison, Linnea miscarried. She refused medical attention until a guard found her unconscious in her cell. The prison chaplain conducted a small service. No name was given to the child who would never draw breath. Mireille left Texas after the trial. She changed her name, dyed her hair, and moved to the Pacific Northwest. College applications were submitted with her new identity. Her dormitory roommate knows nothing of her past. Sometimes she wakes screaming from nightmares she can't describe. On her nightstand sits the only photo she kept: her father and sister at the lake, their faces turned toward the sun. The house on Magnolia Lane stands empty. Potential buyers tour the renovated rooms, admiring the craftsmanship, until realtors reluctantly disclose its history. The tours always end there. Local children dare each other to touch the front door on Halloween. The garden Tamsin tended withers beneath weeds. Experts who study family annihilators note common threads in these cases. The perpetrator often perceives themselves as the center of the family unit. When their position is threatened, by divorce, financial ruin, or exposure of shameful secrets, they make the devastating choice to destroy what they can no longer control. It's about power, forensic psychologist Dr. Eleanor Vance explains. The belief that family members are extensions of oneself rather than independent beings. If the family can't exist as the perpetrator demands, then in their mind, it shouldn't exist at all. What makes the Drummond case particularly haunting is how quickly the facade crumbled. The respected judge, the loving mother, the pillar of the community, all masks hiding a woman capable of ultimate betrayal. For more true crime stories that explore the darkest corners of human behavior, subscribe to Twisted True Crime and hit that notification bell. The story of Judge Linnea Drummond reminds us how quickly a life built over decades can collapse. One decision led to another, each step taking her further from the path she had walked with such certainty. We build our lives choice by choice, brick by brick. But it only takes one crack in the foundation to bring everything down. Secrets demand a price that grows with each passing day. Lies require more lies to sustain them. The weight becomes unbearable. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of this case is its ordinariness before that fatal night. A respected professional. A beautiful home. A family that appeared whole. It forces us to question, how well do we know those closest to us? How well do we know ourselves? What do you think drove Judge Drummond to such extremes? Was it fear, selfishness, or something deeper? Let me know in the comments.